All right, really excited to welcome Tom in. TCU Horned Frog. He's a 2022 Pro-Am, Pebble Beach Pro-Am champion, and apparently goes by Straight Shot with a Complaint. Does that ring a bell there, Tom? What is that about?
Oh, that's Scotty Ham's favorite thing. Yeah, we've he spent a lot of time with me on the range, and generally speaking, on the range, I get a little triggered at times when some shots go offline. So I guess I just have high expectations for every shot, and you know, Scott loves to stand behind me on the range and watch me hit a bunch of shots, and I always look back for him to say something to me, and he just starts laughing at me half the time because he's got nothing for me. Just keep on firing. But yeah, I guess that's a good one to have because generally the shots are going pretty straight. But
Well,
lately it's been pretty good.
it's been working out for you pretty good. Scott Hamilton, Tom's coach, friend of ours. He's been on this podcast a long time ago. We're going to get more about Scott Hamilton here in a second. So he also has called you. This is what he told us today. And full disclaimer, he was drunk on a boat today, texting us. But he said Tom is the greatest practicer ever. And so it sounds like you're like the Tiger Woods of practice. Would you agree? You grinder?
I'd be curious what he knows by that. No, I think where he would be going with that is just that I get a lot out of what I would do, and I'm not there the longest time or anything, but I'm pretty efficient. And kind of going back to that straight shot with the complaint that if I'm going to hit a golf ball, I'm there to hit it well, and I expect a lot out of myself. I'm not just way out there wasting time. You see a lot of guys kind of walking up and down the range talking and whatnot, but I'm there to work and get something out of it. So I think that that's what Scott would go with, and more than anything, I just expect a lot out of myself. And yeah.
Well, so obviously, listeners that are here, maybe out there grinding on the range. I'm kind of a range rat myself. I don't know, like give like your best advice to a mid to low handicapper out on the range. Like, what do you think's the number one issue that you think people have with practice? Maybe the people can walk away early in the interview with a little a tip to help their own game from you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, a lot of what I do comes down to fundamentals, so alignment, setup, sort of stuff. Very easy stuff to work on. Um, and I guess when I'm practicing, I like to get some feedback. So I'll have an alignment stick down for alignment, and I'll put a stick out usually just on the right side of my target line as well. So I've got to start the ball left. I generally like to hit little fades, if anything. So I've got to keep it started left of the stick and hit a straight shot or a little fade. And when I'm putting, that I like to use tees as kind of a gate to putt the ball through, or tees work on my stroke. So I just like to have some great feedback and very tight parameters. So I've got to hit really good shots as I'm doing that. And I think that the tougher you can make practice, that then you go on the golf course and things seems a little bit easier. And that's my general philosophy, I would say, towards my practice.
So, what are some things that you and Scott have been working on, like maybe this year or lately? And I would like to. I'd be curious to know if you are one of those players that over the last couple of years have tried to go down like the added distance rabbit hole that I guess Bryson sparked on not too long ago. What talk to us about some of that?
Yeah, so I would say, I started working with Scott. That would have been like 2018. And since then, all my stuff's pretty much the same. I mean, I generally get a little bit too far in front of the ball in my backswing, so I don't really move into my right side that much. So I always kind of got to watch that because then I get steep from there. My backswing gets a little bit long. So for me, it's really kind of move into the right side on the takeaway, and then just keep the backswing short. And a lot of it works off of that, and kind of just the tempo of the backswing, just slowing it down. So it's been nice because we've kept things very simple, and that's where Scott's been great for me. Is he's kept things simple, he's right to the point, and we really don't deviate from that. I've get off a little bit, and it seems like we always go back to those same things to kind of get me back on track. And I guess with the distance stuff, middle of last summer, I wasn't playing very well at all. I was probably 112, 113 club head speed. If I got to 170 ball speed, it was pretty good for me. Then I switched from the Titleist, I think it was the TSI 2 to the 3 head. and got a few more miles an hour of speed. And then kind of towards the fall, I started playing a little bit better. And I was getting, 114, 115 pretty easily. And just so happened one day I was with Scott in Cartersville hitting out of this bay, and I started to chase the speed a little bit, and I think I got to like 118 or 119 clubhead speed, and that was the fastest I'd ever been. And since then, I've worked on a little bit in the range with TrackMan, that sort of stuff, trying to get a little bit more distance. And not like I need to go out and gain 20, 30 yards, but I think this year, if I looked at my stats, I'm probably up 7 or 8 yards. And it's not a huge difference, but over the course of a season, those little small edges can add up. So I think it has played a little bit of a role in a little bit better play for me. But I would like to say I found a little bit another gear. I would say, I've got to 120 club head speed now, 180 ball speed occasionally. So I've progressed up a little bit. It hasn't been a huge jump like Bryson would have, but if you can find an edge anywhere possible, it's a big deal. And I guess I would say I found the speed by being a little more efficient in my golf swing versus doing anything real crazy, some of the speed drinks and that sort of stuff.
All right, I want to talk a little golf stuff, and then I want to get to some of the more fun stuff.
Yep.
So, currently sitting at 12th in the President's Cup standings. I know you've talked about this a little bit with a shot at playing in, in your first President's Cup, right? Is is that something that, sometimes when like a lot of things, a lot of the time, what we do on the Tour Junkies show is we're handicapping golf tournaments every week, from DFS, from betting,
Yep.
all that stuff. And we look at things like this time of year, for example, is that time of year where, guys on the fringe of a FedEx Cup bubble on the standings, or, looking down the road a little bit, guys battling on the bubble for the President's Cup or the Ryder Cup, whatever that may be. And we'll say like, well, this is obviously like extra motivation, right? This is added motivation, maybe added pressure this time of year if you've only got one or two more events to get it done. Is that something that you agree with? Because like we have some people that would say, guys, these guys are going to give it their best every single week. Like this shouldn't matter, or this isn't any different. But I gotta feel like if you know time's running out, whether it's FedEx Cup standings or President's Cup or Ryder Cup, is that something that is in the back of your mind a little bit more? And obviously, it could be personal too, right? It could be one thing for you and something different for somebody else. Like talk to me about that, being on the bubbles of things like that, as you are on the President's Cup right now.
Yeah. I mean, so I think that, a couple thoughts, I guess. I mean, I think it's one of those deals as a professional golfer. There's always some sort of a bubble you're on, right? Whether it's keeping
Yeah.
your card on tour, trying to make that second, top 70 on the FedEx Cup list, trying to make it to East Lake, trying to get in the top 50 in the world. Now for me, trying to make a President's Cup or Ryder Cup team. I mean, it just seems like wherever you're at, there's always something that you're always chasing for. So you kind of get used to it, and you just know you got to go out and play well. It's the answer at the end of the day. Um, but it is a unique situation for me, and I guess I look at it more from a scheduling standpoint that I was planning to take a couple of weeks off here the whole year, right before the playoffs are starting. And last week at 3 a.m., we started getting a few messages from Davis Love, some different stuff to do for the President's Cup team, being on the bubble. And that really got us thinking about it a lot more and kind of what do I need to do to make the team. Like I said, the easy answer is play well, but kind of the dilemma that I'm in right now is, am I better off resting here and get ready for the FedEx Cup stretch for 3 weeks, or should I be going to play Detroit and Wyndham, trying to play well and trying to get more points on the board and move up the ranks there? But for me, it doesn't do me any good to go to Wyndham and finish 30th place. I've got to go out and play well wherever I tee it up, so I've got to be ready to go. So I'm kind of taking it day by day, really, right now, and trying to figure out where my body's at and what I need to do. And ultimately, I'll probably end up playing. But it is, and like I said, everywhere you're at, whether guys are chasing top 200 on the PGA Tour FedEx, try to get to the Corn Ferry Finals, 126 to 150. I mean, there's just everybody's in a little bit different spot. I guess for me, it's a little bit easier because I've got a job locked up for the next few years, so I'm in good shape there. But you're always pushing the next level.
I mean, I guess I'd imagine like the pressure of the 125 number in the FedEx Cup
Yeah,
standings. It's happening right now for a lot of guys. It's probably a little more intense because it's obviously
for
has a
sure.
lot to do with your job and what you're going to be doing next year. And you're a guy who's like grinded, right? I mean, you've been on tour for quite a while. you got your first win this year. You're like you've grinded to stay on tour. You've been back and forth from Corn Ferry Tour and back. Like, so what does it mean? So would you agree with that? Like that the guys this time of year are really looking at that, and that's the real pressure, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you saw it a little bit last week at 3M. I was in a little bit different position, being that my cards locked up with a few other guys, and there were some guys in contention that were outside the top 125, kind of looking in. And I felt like certainly going to the weekend that I was freed up a lot more to just go out and play golf, and those guys really had a lot on the line, and that's kind of how it is this time of the year. This is my 8th year on tour. I've had to go back to the Corn Ferry Finals, I think 3 or 4 times to get my card back, and that's really the most pressure at the end of the year. One year I had to make a 15-footer in the last hole to get my card back. So, it doesn't get any more pressure than that. And then when you do get into contention, it's a little bit different deal as far as trying to play well and win a tournament versus trying to,
Yeah,
some guys will have to finish 30th or 40th place at Wyndham in order to keep their card. And
yeah,
that's a totally different stress, because it's almost like you're switching your mentality of how you play golf from everything you've always done for your whole life. But yeah, I've had the conversation with college coaches and high school coaches that with whole qualifying that situation, it's like, well, if you want to be a professional golfer, you're always dealing with this as far as what number that you're trying to get to next, and
yeah.
you just got to deal with that pressure.
All right, so talk about your play a little bit. As I said, we're always trying to handicap this stuff, right? And picking golfers is hard as hell. Like, you know,
Yep.
you've got you've got a weird mascot, right? The TCU Horned Frogs. We have a blind squirrel looking for a nut. That's the game of golf. That's gambling. That's the whole thing,
Love it.
right? Talk to me about this, dude. Because and now last week's show, I think I said something. I think I did. One of the pieces of content we did last week, I said, "Man, I got a feeling about Hoge. Like, I think you're like 100 to 1 or something," which I just thought was kind of way too long. And I said I had a feeling, but I still couldn't pull the trigger. But you're a not you finished ninth at the PGA Championship. Okay, then you have 6 straight missed cuts, and then you
Hmm.
finish fourth last week. Like, so from a handicapping perspective, the guys, when you have a stint like that, it's so hard, right? Because I see like, dang, you finished top 10 at a major, and then right after that, like, sucked for a little bit, right? Or
Yeah.
relatively, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, like it doesn't go from 6 missed cuts to a made cut and then like a top 40, but it just goes to boom. Like, talk
Yeah.
to me about that for you, and maybe that stretch in particular. Like, what happened?
I wish I had an answer. I mean, I played well at the PGA. Colonial was a tough week for me. There was a lot going on, being the hometown event here in Fort
Yeah,
Worth. Memorial, I missed the cut because I did some stupid stuff in the second round. I could go down the list. I wish I had a good answer. I really didn't play well for a few weeks in there. My iron game got a little bit off, but it was funny because I had a buddy who texted me at the start of last week that he likes betting golf, and one of his buddies who runs some models and stuff had me real high last week, and I was like, man, save your money. I mean, I've missed 6 cuts in a row. I mean, if you're betting on me, you've got problems here this week, and I guess that kind of came out of nowhere for me a little bit last week, but I don't know. I guess for me personally, that I guess I just have a hard time when I feel like stuff's a little bit off in my game to kind of fake my way around it a little bit. So, for the U.S. Open travelers, my iron game that's always been a strength of mine is probably as bad as it's ever been, and couldn't get it figured out. And finally, in the last week or two, that's sort of clicked again for me. So, kind of feel like I'm back going the right direction, but I certainly am not jealous of guys trying to bet golf, because it's the craziest damn
yeah,
sport
it's
out
hard.
here. That's for
It's
sure.
hard. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's really hard. So, in terms of yours, like if you look ahead now and you've got the ability to kind of make your schedule now, being a PGA Tour winner this year, looking ahead to next year, all that stuff. Like, what are your favorite courses on tour? Like, what are the ones that you look at? And obviously, like most of you guys all believe you can win anywhere. Um, but like, what are the ones where you look at and go, like, that place just for whatever reason it suits my eyes, what people say, or um,
Yeah.
you know, my skill set's really good. Like, what are those places for you?
Well, I think if I looked at kind of what suits my game, I would say it's a golf course where distance isn't as important. Not necessarily short, but distance isn't a big deal. Guys kind of have to drive it all in the same areas. And then I would say, mid to short irons become pretty important on it. And I've always played well at like Sea Island. Um, I actually really feel like TPC Sawgrass fits my game great, just because it's such a second shot golf course. But um, it is funny, like you said, because I've played well at Torrey Pines. I've played well at courses that really don't suit me well at all, but I guess that's just being out here for 8 years.
Yeah.
Eventually, you're going to run into a good week at one of those places. But I think that it's a weird deal too, because I felt like there's some golf courses, Sony in Hawaii, Colonial, Harbor Town, those sort of places. I feel like really suit my game well, and I think those are all my missed cuts off the start of this year before this last stretch. So some of those are head scratchers, but I think for me the thing that ends up being is more recent form is more important than any of that sort of stuff, and kind of how I'm feeling about my game going into it's a lot more important for me.
Do you play out of Colonial at home?
I did not play out there. We used to practice out there when I was in the TCU golf team, and I moved to a little bit different side of town here. But I've always loved that golf course, and it's such a good ball strikers golf course that I've always felt like I should play great there. And other than my first year there, I really haven't played very well at all. So I can't quite figure out why, but hopefully one of these years we'll catch a little better form. And it's such a fun week for me being the hometown event, having all the TCU people, Fort Worth people come out, and hopefully I can play well here soon.
So what are the courses on tour that, after you win, you're like, sweet, I don't have to go there for the next like 2 weeks?
The funniest one that I can't figure out is John Deere. TBC Deere Run is like the hardest golf course in the world to me. I don't know what my career scoring average there, but it's probably close to 75, and it takes about 30 under par to win there every year. So I
Yeah.
can't figure that one out, but that
That's
one's a
I was
mystery.
not expecting that one.
No, I mean, I don't know. It's funny. I guess guys would have different reasons for events that they skip. For me, I was looking at it. I think that if I do play Wyndham in the playoffs, I'm going to play 33 weeks again this year, which is a crazy amount. I don't know why I keep doing that to myself, but I just find that every week's a great week out here, and it's hard to go sit on the couch when they're handing out
Yeah.
$1 million every week to somebody. So I just go out and play a lot, and when I get tired, I try to take a little rest. But yeah,
Do you find in those stretches, like we've talked to a lot of players over the years, where it's like where's that spot of like consecutive tournaments in a row where you start to like feel the fatigue or feel like
yeah.
you lose your game? Is it after 3 weeks? Is it after 4 weeks, 5 weeks? Are you Sung JM where you can just play forever? Where is that point for you?
I don't have a good answer there because I've kind of just always done what I've had to do with regards to the schedule. Some years, that was probably 2019 where I didn't keep my card that year. I think I played just about every week. 10 out of 11, 11 out of 12 stretches like that, and I didn't necessarily feel like I was at a disadvantage playing that many weeks in a row, just because you kind of get in the routine and away you go. But I do think that as you start playing 5, 6 weeks, that you just kind of lose that little bit of an edge mentally, and
Yeah.
you're just not quite as sharp as you could be. So that gets tough. But you certainly have to do it at times. Being a professional golfer, and you better be ready for it. It's funny because I'm looking at the schedule, what I'm going to play the rest of this fall, and most of them are 3 to 4 weeks and a week off, because I think that's probably about the right amount. But it almost seems a little bit soft now from the Corn Ferry days where you'd play 13 or 14 weeks in a row.
All right, golf addicts, we're going to get right back to the show here in just a second. But before we do, I got to remind you guys that the Nut Hut Discord server is where you can get VIP access to me, to Pat, to Ben Little, to AC, the smartest prize picks guy I know. All right. And all the community that you could ever ask for is in that Discord server. We've had verified members win over $6 million in the Discord server since June of 2020. There's over 700 members in there right now. and it's $10 a month or $90 a year to get in it. Okay. There is a free version if you're already on Discord or if you want to set up your account and just check it out to see what it's all about. You can click in the description below and try the free version, but there's a lot of things hidden for you in the free version, like caddy info that we get from our friends on the course every single week that we pass along to you. I read every single interview and press transcript leading up to each golf tournament. I screenshot the stuff that you only need to know for betting or DFS, and I put that in the caddy info channel, curate all that information so you don't have to. Our friend Caddy John, former PGA Tour caddy, is on there every single week giving his thoughts, his breakdown on the golf course, and all the other stuff that you need. And the community is there. And listen, while there's a ton of golf information, we know that people love to bet and play DFS on other sports. So there's NBA threads, MLB, NFL, UFC. There's even a disc golf guru in there, right? Helping people make a ton of money, and it's just been a growing community. It's the best part of what we do. We don't charge our listeners, our followers, our readers, our email subs anything for the content that we put out at tourjunkies.com. We usually put it all to the sponsors and advertisers. Everything we write on our website, none of it's behind a paywall. Our emails are obviously free. The only thing that you pay for directly to get access to with Tour Junkies is the Discord server, and it's the Nut Hut. So go to tourjunkies.com, click on Nut Hut, check it out. $10 a month, $90 a year. You can cancel at any time, and just give it a shot. I promise you, you won't regret it. It's also the one place that you can get on Wednesday nights at around 8:30, 9 p.m. Eastern for at least an hour, two, sometimes three. You get live chats with me, with Pat, with some other experts that we have on there weekly. That's where we can answer all your questions about whatever you're playing, whatever you're doing, whatever you're thinking in terms of golf betting and DFS, or sometimes we just chat about life in general. So it's a great community growing on Discord right now. And I know it could be intimidating if you've never done Discord, but trust me, it's easy once you get in there and get going. So check it out right now. Link in the description. And now back to the show. Now, if you take some time off, and not like a week, but if you have 2 to 3 weeks and then you come back, is your first tournament kind of, do you feel like you're a little rusty, or do you make sure you're pretty well prepared going into that, or do you feel like you hit your groove in that second, third, fourth event?
Yeah, for sure. I've always felt like when I come back, from 2 weeks off, that first day or two, you're just a little bit off, not quite used to that competitive part of having to hold all the 4 or 5 footers, that sort of stuff that you're
Yeah.
raking back at home in some games. So it just takes you a little while. It's always different to get back into it. It was funny because I took 2 weeks off right before Byron Nelson here in May in the PGA Championship, and that was the first time that I've really come back. I felt great, fresh. I felt like it had been a long time since I had played, but I felt like my game was pretty sharp right from the get go. So I guess what I'd be trying to say with it all is just every situation is a little bit different. So there's not really a good way to put it. And it's almost one of the challenges of professional golf, because you're managing yourself and trying to figure out what's best for you. And there's really not one good way to look at it. Everybody's a little bit different, and every situation is unique.
Yeah. So you mentioned they're handing out $1 million paychecks every week on the PGA Tour. They're handing out $4 million paychecks every week at LIV. Have you received a LIV offer?
Yeah, I was kind of dealing with that earlier this year. I would say in about April when, man, things were really weird. It was after
Yeah.
Phil had kind of talked with the media, and nobody really knew where anything stood. And the hardest part that I was having is that I went on tour for the first time this year. I've got in majors. I've got in a lot of tournaments, that I've always wanted to play. Maui, the Tournament of Champions. And I just don't know that I was ready to be done playing those tournaments. So I ultimately decided to stay put where I'm at on the PGA Tour. Just because like I said, I've always wanted to play these big tournaments that I've now qualified for the first time. And I certainly get what guys are saying about playing less. Like I said, I played 33 weeks last year, but I often wonder, if I'm on the couch here for a week or two, I'm kind of itching to get back out and ready to go do something again. So I don't know that would be the best situation for me. That I'm always kind of need that little competitive edge. You're kind of always getting ready for the next tournament, that sort of stuff, and ready to get back out there and compete. And I think I would miss that too much playing on the LIV.
So this is my last LIV question. So, if you look at all the players in LIV, right? You've got PGA Tour, LIV, DP World Tour, all these worldwide tours. How do you see it? What would have to play out for those tours, the players, the caddies and the fans like us who love watching golf every week and you know are very highly engaged in it. What has to happen, in your opinion, for all of those parties to feel like they've won, that they can coexist? Because obviously, right now, that's not happening. And my fear is that the fans are going to suffer if we have fragmented tours. What, in
Yeah.
your mind, what do you think is the solution to that?
I mean, really, the only way that you have a solution is if there's some way that the PGA Tour and LIV work together, which I don't really know that day's ever going to come unless it's kind of forced by the courts. But
Yeah,
like you said, it's just such a bad deal for fans, for the game of golf, for everything, that the best players are now going to be split, between Europe, the PGA Tour, and LIV. I mean, they're kind of all over the place, and I guess that's why you have the majors to bring everybody together. But it's just a tough deal. You almost hope that the PGA Tour would have come out with this idea for the 12 to 14 bigger events like they've talked about a couple of years earlier, because I feel like he could have probably kept a lot more guys, with those elevated events. But it's just a tough situation, and I think that it's going to have to play out in court more than anything, and kind of see how things go from there.
yep. All right, good stuff. That's all the business, the golf stuff. Now we're gonna go into what we call the native area. We don't
Oh,
call it the E9 or emergency 9 because like 6 shows call it that. And
yeah, yeah.
it's not always 9 questions. We call it the native area, always have, because we see on the shot tracker app sometimes you guys hit in the native area, and we don't know what that means. You may not even know what that means. Is it rocky? Is it fescue? Is it grass? Are we good? Are we on the cart path? We don't know. So you just don't know what you're going to get in the native area.
All
Questions
right.
about all kind of stuff. All right, so this is kind of a leading question here, Tom. What's something that you are known for by those on the inside, the players and caddies on the PGA Tour?
Well, the obvious answer is gambling, I would say. Um,
Your
I don't
brother
know. I think that's
said
quite.
your brother said Saturday and Sunday, lots of checking on the phone, checking scores.
Yeah,
Checking scores.
that's fair enough. TCU's playing. I have my phone out all the time, almost watching play by play, I would say. I would kind of go in the sports betting phase, kind of hit and miss. It go in cycles. A few years I'll take it off. A few years I'll be on just about every game out there. But I don't know. I love college football and NFL football, so that's a fun time of year, and we needed to get here fast because it's a little bit slow this summer here. But
For those of you that can't bet on golf like yourself, it's very slow, right?
yeah, yeah,
We're sitting here
exactly.
pounding the drum, going, "Guys, golf is year round. Like, let's do it." Um,
Yeah.
that's funny. Okay, more on that in a little bit. Your favorite guys to get paired up with on tour? Who are your
Hmm.
buds? Who are your bros out there?
Well, I would say anybody that plays fast, first of all.
Yep.
Um, Matt Every was a good friend of mine. We played a lot of practice rounds together. It sucked that he hasn't had full status here this year because we've missed out on that. But I don't know. I guess some of those loose cannons that like to gamble like I do would be some of my better friends.
What's the game like? What's the action you got going on in practice rounds? What do you guys normally play? And do you have like a partner that you really like gel with, like Kiz and Brownie, or I know just beat anybody?
No, I mean, it kind of started with Matt. I think it was at Bay Hill one year, which I was kind of, I guess I was the fish getting roped into a place that Matt's won twice, trying to bet against him there. But it just started off as a couple $100, and once you're closed out, you play for like half. But COVID kind of hit then, and that slowed it down. And coming out of that, he had the great idea that he wanted to play auto one downs, where each hole within each bet would be worth whatever dollar amount. Just say $100 now. So if you lost 3-2-1, it was 300, 200, 100. So those games got pretty wild pretty fast, and they could generally only be 9 holes because it was ninth hole would be worth a lot of money with Matt out there. He liked to hit driver on every hole too in the practice rounds, whether there was space for it or not. So there weren't many holes halved because he was going to make either birdie or an
Double.
X on me. Yeah, exactly.
That's nice. Matt's a funny guy. He follows us a little bit we follow him. He thinks
Oh,
we're
he's the best. I consider myself pretty boring other than the gambling stuff, and Matt is very entertaining in practice rounds. He's always got something going on, so it's always fun to be out with him.
love it. What about have you ever won so much cash at a casino that you had to carry it around in your golf bag or make some sort of mass deposit?
Yeah, man, it's been a while since I've had that. There were a few times I had a few good runs. Nothing crazy, win 15, 20 grand or something, but we'd be in the cities and I didn't trust the hotels, so he'd put it in the golf bag, and those were good times because I'd be sure to tell the cat, I'm like, all right, the bag is not leaving your sight. If you're going to the porta potty, the bag's going with you. So I'm trying to think, Oakmont for the U.S. Open, the one year in 2016, I had a nice run. And we kept having rain delays, so I kept having to take the cash in and out of the bag as we go back into the locker room for the rain delay. But doing that in front of the galleries was always interesting. But that's a good
That's
problem to have. I wish that was a little more frequent these days.
that's hilarious. All right, so obviously you're a documented craps player. Is that pretty much it for you? I mean, is that like so when you're walking into a casino, that's the plan of attack is we're hitting the craps table, right?
Yeah, I think the craps is where I have the most fun. I do play blackjack as well.
Yeah.
Kind of as a change of pace, I would say a little bit. When I need to sit down after I've been standing at the craps table for a few hours, it's time for blackjack. But
You a
I would
pass
say I
line
enjoy.
guy?
What's that?
You're a pass line or no pass line guy?
I actually don't even play the pass line. I just place the
Oh,
point after it comes out, kind of
okay.
what I would bet on the pass line. There's a few different reasons for it, but
You play any of that
and
stuff in
now,
the middle?
so the whole story's come out that I taught Jordan Spieth how to play
Yeah.
craps too. That's their favorite one that they love. And really, it wasn't even that I taught him how to play necessarily. It's just that when a point's on 4 or 10, and if you're on the pass line, that's three times odds, which it is in most places 3, 4, 5. You're actually getting paid less to make a pass line bet with full odds versus just placing it or buying it. So that's all I was trying to explain to Jordan there is that there was a more efficient way to bet for him. That was kind of the story behind the whole Jordan Spieth deal. But I generally just place, even numbers if I'm kind of sticking to my systems of 4, 6, 8, 10, and the 4 and 10 I love because you get paid 2 to 1, so you can press those a little bit faster and try to make the lights flicker there in the casino.
So you don't play any of the trash in the middle?
No, I generally avoid all that unless things are going real well and we can take a shot at them a little bit.
Yeah, you gotta stay away from that stuff. All right, so obviously you're not allowed, but I'm interested to hear from a tour player's perspective and a sports bettor. If you were handicapping golf in a golf tournament, let's just talk about this week at the Rocket Mortgage. How would you approach it? Like just big overall approach.
Um, I think I would look at recent form more than anything. So I think that's very important. Um,
What do you consider recent form? Because that's also a debate.
Probably the last 3 to 4 starts, how guys are playing. And I know that doesn't cover a lot, but I guess you'd have to go there. You'd have to go a little bit of like course history, and not necessarily the golf course you're at, but other golf courses that are similar style to where they're playing. I think where they at Golf Club of Detroit is at a Donald Ross, so
Yep.
other kind of Donald Ross golf courses, that sort of stuff, and what fits. But I don't know. It just seems like guys win out of nowhere. I mean, kind of like you said about myself, I had missed 6 cuts in a row and go and finish fourth, and felt like I had a good chance to win that golf tournament yesterday.
Yeah.
That you see it so many times that guys have missed so many cuts in a row and they go win. So
Yep.
I don't know. I guess that completely goes against everything I just said there with recent
I know,
history.
dude.
But
It's so hard.
I don't know. I would be the worst golf bettor of all time, I think.
Well, how bad? By the way, speaking of yesterday, and I don't want to. I mean, how was that the worst lie you've ever had in a bunker?
Yeah, that was up there for sure. And it was frustrating because if it carried another foot, it was going to be pretty much right where I wanted it, just short of the green, chipping right up the hill there for a pretty good look at a birdie. But I had that break, and I had a crazy wind gust on 18 in the first round on a 4-foot putt that I had. I hit the putt and looked up and got a wind gust. So I knew it was going to miss left because the wind was taking the left, and I thought I'd have a little tap in from there. And I looked up, and the ball's like 10 feet away from the hole. So went from an easy birdie there to a bogey. So between those two breaks, it was a tough one to look back on the end of that golf tournament. And it's probably two of the worst breaks I've had in my career to that point, as far as specific shots like that on tour. So
The
that
PGA
was
Tour,
a tough one, but I played well.
the PGA Tour put you on blast on social for that putt too. I don't know if you saw that.
A
Uh,
couple times,
yeah,
yeah.
they couldn't do it. Aaron Fleener texted us about 18. He said it was real gusty that first day or so. Guys were having problems with it. I think the Hideki rinsed like 2 or 3 in the water that day. There
I
was
was
some.
playing with Hideki. Yeah, our
Oh, you
group
were?
we had a wild ride on that hole because
Yeah.
Hideki had hit 3 in the water. Sung Jae hit 1 in the water. I 4 putted. We were like, shit, we got to get out of here.
Dang. That's wild. All right. Tell us about the Eddie George bet. Have you ever told that story on anything?
I don't know that I have, and that was a long time ago, so I'm gonna have to try to remember all the specifics. I want to say that was like 2014 or 15. Um, it was for a Corn Ferry Finals event up in Columbus, Ohio, obviously, and Ohio State always had a kind of their own pro-am offsite, and I got paired with Eddie, which was awesome. His golf games probably needs a little bit of work, but man, that guy is such a big guy. It's pretty cool just to see the size of him kind of up close in person. But we were riding a cart the whole day. TCU was going to play Minnesota. I think we had a home and home with them, so I can't remember if that was the first year or second year of the game. But basically, it progressed. He's talking all the Big Ten shit, and being a TCU guy, I'm not too fond of the Big Ten. TCU had a great team and got screwed out of the playoffs or one year when Ohio State was let in. They won the national championships. There was a lot going off of that, but I'm trying to think how it even progressed. Somehow, if TCU won, Eddie was going to have to take a picture in TCU gear and tweet it out and all that. And I think if Minnesota had won, which I don't even remember what I threw out there, I think it was to wear an Eddie George jersey going up the 16th hole at Scottsdale one year, which at that point was probably my rookie year on tour. Like I didn't even know that I wouldn't be getting in Scottsdale for a number of years because it's so hard to get in there. But there was about a 0% chance Minnesota was going to win that game, so it was a pretty safe bet. And I'll give Eddie credit; he was a great sport. He followed up. We got the TCU athletics department to send him some gear, and he took a picture in it all and tweeted it out. So it was pretty cool.
You got to get the tweet framed, Tom. You should get that.
Yeah,
They do that. They
yeah,
really do.
for sure.
It's pretty cool having them sign it.
Yeah.
All right, a few more quick ones, and then I want to get into some football stuff real quick. If you had to have another PGA Tour player caddy for you for a season, who would it be and why?
Harold's a good friend of mine, and it would be fun to have him caddy just because you never know what the hell he's going to say next, and you'd always be laughing out there on the golf course. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that would be a good thing or a bad thing.
Talking about HV3.
HV3, yeah.
I just talked to him on Friday.
Oh man, he's great, but
Really, you
he
guys
is
might get in
he's
trouble.
funny. He's fun to be around, that's for sure. It would be a very light mood on the golf course all the time, but I'm not sure if that would be the best way for me to operate. Um,
So he'd be the fun option. Who'd be the one that you feel like, all right, we could get some
We
stuff.
actually we kind of had to fill a question out like this for a survey for the President's Cup, and I put down Maverick McNeely. I feel like he's a very smart guy, and he's on the quiet end, so it would fit well with me. I'm kind of quiet on the golf course as well, and it'd be a good match, and kind of just go do our own thing. And as intelligent as he is, you'd trust the advice that he gives you.
That's interesting. So they're sending you a questionnaire with like some weird, like kind of odd questions on it. Do you remember any other weird ones?
Yeah, they have you do a survey. I've done a few of them now for the Ryder Cup and President's Cup, and it's just sort of who do you think you'd match up well with as far as partners and how your personalities would match up and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Um, have you ever been in a fist fight?
I have not.
Never been in a fist fight. We get that a lot. We get that a lot.
I'd probably get my ass kicked because I'm pretty soft. So
What's your favorite funny movie? You got to put on your funniest movie you're gonna laugh, guaranteed. What is it?
Gosh. See, I'm terrible at remembering stuff like this, so I can't even think of a movie right now. Um,
Me and Harold, speaking of Harold, I'll give you some time to think. We had him on the show back in 2018, and he was the one and only tour pro that I've ever talked to this date when we've asked this question to, where he said this, and it's one of my favorite funny movies, probably top 5 for sure, maybe top 3, and it's the movie Pootie Tang. Have you ever seen that movie?
I'm trying to think if I feel like I have. I just
It's
can't
old.
remember it at all.
It's old. It's got Chris Rock in it. Um, it's wild. It's wild. Next time you talk to HV, you need to tell him to get you a copy.
All I'm coming up with right now is The Hangover, and I always love watching The Hangover, both because it's funny and because it gets you in that Vegas mood, fires you up a little bit to go gamble.
Gambling movie. What was your first concert you ever went to?
I have no idea, to be honest with you.
You don't remember your first concert? Dang, Tom.
No.
Your memory might be worse than mine. I have a terrible memory, and I remember my
I'm
first.
getting old, man. I feel like I'm going to be one of the old guys on tour, and I guess it's coming through because I can't remember shit here right now.
What's the most recent concert you've been to?
I don't even know that. I mean, we used to go to a lot of concerts because all the tournaments would kind of have
Yeah.
concerts with the tournaments before COVID hit. Um, I don't even know if I've been to one since COVID hit. It might have been the famous Chainsmokers concert on the 17th hole at Sawgrass the week of
I was
COVID.
there. I was there.
That was the loudest concert I've ever been to. I can tell you that much.
We were media that week, and I came up there at the very beginning, and we were sitting like behind the green. It wasn't really all that
Gotcha.
long. All I remember was I took a really good video of Kevin Price, the Corn Ferry Tour guy, dancing.
Oh God,
That went like
that's
semi-viral.
got to be incredible.
It's
No,
fantastic.
we were sitting right in front of the stage, kind of up in the grandstand hospitality they had there.
Yeah.
And my wife and I were at a small table, two-person table, and I was screaming at her from 3 feet away, and she couldn't hear a word I was saying. That's how loud it was right there. So,
Yeah, you were on the wrong side of the speakers for the Chainsmokers there.
yeah, exactly.
You need to go to a concert, Tom, because honestly, the fact that Chainsmokers was your most recent, you need to do something.
Yeah.
Go cleanse yourself somewhere right now.
The funny part is we were going to go to Chainsmokers in Vegas the week of the second playoff event last year, and then I went and played well in New York at Liberty National. I finished fourth, which got me into the second playoff event, so we had to cancel that trip. But
Oh well.
I don't know. I feel like I've been to something more recently, just can't remember. My brother works in the music industry, so I've gone to a fair amount of stuff with him, but nothing recent since COVID.
Yeah. Well, speaking of your wife, I've heard you refer to her as the probation officer and stuff, which is funny. You know, what's I'm married. Pat's married. We all know you're married. Like, there's always one or two things that annoy the hell out of your spouse that maybe you didn't realize you did, or you can't stop doing for whatever reason. It could be the smallest thing in the world. What is that for you? What do you do that like really annoys the hell out of her? She's trying to break.
Mm, a good one, I would say, that probably the top one is that if I'm on my phone or if I'm just thinking about something, it could be golf or whatever, but she'll ask me a question and I'll just won't even hear her respond basically half the time because I'm thinking about something else, and that drives her nuts. Um,
We all struggle with that.
yeah, I don't know. There's not a lot other than that,
Yeah.
really. I mean, it's tough because we're around each other all day long. Pretty much, she goes just about every tournament, so she's with me all the time. So I'm sure we could ask her, and she's got a long list of stuff I do that annoys her. But
Yeah, you'll have to ask her when we're done here. What
yeah,
ha- have you ever, this is the last one, and then we're gonna do one more thing. Have you ever shed a tear as a sports fan? You're a big sports guy, big football guy, TCU tear, maybe.
no, I wouldn't say I've ever shed a tear. I mean, there's been some cool games. Coach Patterson was a legend for us at TCU. There were some fun games to be at where TCU, we beat Baylor in a rainstorm. Some other big upset wins, but never a tear.
Yeah. All right. So here's what we're gonna do. I want to look at, speaking of sports fans and tears, I'd like to look at some over under win totals for some college
Oh
football.
boy.
You down with that?
Okay.
Let's see
Let's
if we
do
can
it.
share the screen here. All right.
That's
So
so hard right now, though, with all the transfer shit going on. I mean, you can't keep
I,
up with who's
that
got
is
what.
that is very true. I figured we'd stick to the Big 12 since obviously you're probably pretty familiar with
Okay.
that. So I have shed a tear as a sports fan, and most recently, me and Pat went to the national title game in Indy, where our beloved Georgia Bulldogs finally got it done. And when it happened, when the interception went down, like we just like uncontrollably sobbed, like a lot of people in that stadium. So I want to talk a little. Maybe let's do some Big 12. You name the team, I'll find the team here, and we'll look at their. This is on FanDuel Sportsbook. We'll look at their over under totals and we'll go from there. So you name the team, Big 12 or SEC, and we'll go find them.
Well, my favorite one to always start with is Kansas because they're usually like
They
one
suck.
game if they'll win or not.
Yeah.
What do we
I think
got
it's about
Kansas this year?
yep. Over under 2.5, baby.
Wow, 2.5. I mean, they've got to have an FCS game in there right off the bat. They should win. So they're at 1.
Let's
But I
see.
would take the under on Kansas every year.
They've got a Tennessee Tech, a Duke. Oh, you know what? Ooh, Tom, this is bad. Tom, I'm looking on CBS right now, and whoever wrote this thinks that their wins come a Tennessee Tech and Duke, and then they have TCU as the possible third.
No chance. We're going 12-0.
All right, who's your next team? So you're taking the over under. What'd you say? I forgot.
I'd take the under on Kansas every
Yeah,
year. I mean, I feel like it's kind of like if you took Alabama or the Patriots over every year. It's just one of those you've got a good shot in the long run making money on the under every year.
I like it. All right, who's your next team? What are we doing?
Well, let's see what the Horned Frogs got.
Let's
I've
check
got
out
suckered into the
TCU.
Horned Frogs over 7.5 the last few years, and it's been a little expensive
Oh,
for me.
we got a little value here. 6.5.
God, I probably shouldn't have looked because now that's going to bait me into taking that again.
That's the over. You
Um,
can't take the under as Tom Hoge on, live on the show or public on the show. So the over is happening. But you did
yeah,
say
for sure. I mean,
you're
we
getting
got
a
a new
hook.
coach is my only question mark. We've got so much talent. I mean, if they got us losing to Kansas, we got some serious issues, though.
Well, that was just one idiot's prediction, and it was like the barely like this one could put them over
Yeah.
the two. All right, who we going next? Where
What's
are we going next?
what's Oklahoma at?
You're gonna test my my alphabetical order prowess here. Uh, Oklahoma. Here we go. Let's see. Oklahoma. Over under 8.5.
Wow, that seems low. I mean, that's I haven't really looked. I mean, I guess they had their whole team leave pretty much after Lincoln Riley jumped out of town.
They do, on that same CBS article, they've got over under at 9.5. And they're picking the under. So this is kind of a weird line here between FanDuel and whatever CBS is using. I don't know anything about. I don't follow
I'm just
anything.
curious, what's Oklahoma State right below them?
Yeah, let's look at
Oklahoma
Oklahoma.
State's got to be the favorite in the conference this year, I would
Eight and a
think.
half. Both
Wow,
8.5.
that's surprising. I would take Oklahoma State to win more games than Oklahoma this year, but
Ooh, juicy.
I guess they're expecting a lot of parity in the Big 12 this year, which isn't good for us to try to
Yeah.
make a college playoff spot.
Yeah. All right. So what do we think? We think over on Oklahoma State
I'd go over Oklahoma State, and I would probably go over for Oklahoma as
just
well.
because that 8.5 is good. All right. Where are we going
What
next?
one last Big 12? We got to look at Texas. I
Yep.
mean,
Yep.
highest payroll in football.
And that includes the NFL, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Over under 8.5 for Texas. Let's see what this dumb secret is.
Under all day long.
Dude, Texas is always so freaking overrated. God, I
They're
hate it.
back.
I saw that dumb quarterback somebody was like drooling over on Twitter the other day too, with this like mullet cut and God, they're
Quinn
just
Ewers.
they're so hopeless. Is that who it was? I don't know.
He's their latest highly paid quarterback they got.
So we're taking the under at 8.5. You want to? All right. Any SEC teams?
Yeah, fire it up. See what we got. What's
Let's
what's
go.
Bama at?
Yeah,
12?
let's go straight to the top with Bama. Ooh, 10.5.
Minus 280. Wow.
Yeah,
I mean, you almost have to take the under just for some
just
value,
because of
but
the
they're probably
value.
going to
Yeah,
win every game again.
I mean, I don't know who they're gonna. Let's see.
See,
Let's
the
see.
SEC is so hard because you really have to look at their schedules because you don't know who they're playing out of the divisions.
Maybe this is a stay away. Maybe we just stay away from this one. I mean, because the over is the play, but minus 280, that's not sexy at all, unless we're
Yeah.
building off the parlay.
What do they got for Georgia this year?
We could do the parlay. We could do that. Let's see. Let's look at the dogs. This is gonna be same number but
Wow.
different. Minus 250 there. I mean,
Who's Georgia got on the schedule?
I am a very I do not bet anything Georgia. We have Oregon. We have Oregon week 1. Which scares me. We have South Carolina, we have Missouri, Auburn, Florida, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Kentucky, and Tech.
12-0.
If we get honestly, like if we can get past Oregon, I feel really good.
Should beat everybody, yeah.
I mean, Florida obviously scares us every year. Tennessee's getting stronger. I think Tennessee's an interesting spot. But honestly, if we can get past, Oregon, I mean, so the play is obviously we're gonna click the over, but still the
Yeah,
value
no
sucks.
doubt.
Anybody else in the SEC we want to look at?
Not that I can think of.
I'm curious now at Tennessee's line. Let's look at Tennessee and then we'll wrap it up here because they're just
I almost say we got to look at Vanderbilt too. Who's going to have more wins, Vanderbilt or Kansas this year?
Kansas. Tennessee is at the over is 7.5 over under 7.5.
You got to take the over there, right? They came on pretty strong at the end of last year.
I would think they would. They're going to lose to Georgia, Bama, and LSU.
They're kind of right there with Texas, though. Everybody's been talking about Tennessee every year since Peyton Manning left. They're back.
That is true. All right, who was the one you said to look at? Oh, Vandy. Let's look at Vandy. Poor Vandy. 2.5, just like the Kansas.
That would be a good bet, Kansas versus Vandy. But I think you got to take the under on both and just ride. Worst you're going to do is split.
God, this is what a terrible. Let's see what this. They won't let us parlay any of these. Okay, we've got Tom Hoge's. We've got Tom Hoge's.
The 15-team parlay.
Yeah, we got.
That's my brother. That's my brother that handles those. He can handle the parlays. I can't win one game, but yeah.
Hey, listen, Tom, we appreciate it. Is there anything going on for you that people out there could support or get behind, other than just rooting for you every week on the PGA Tour?
Yeah, not a lot. Just just don't show up and yell at me that you've been betting on me that week. That's been everybody's favorite thing to do out on the course, and gets a laugh at all the players. That's for sure.
Dude, let me just say for the record, we've said this many times, we do not condone that whatsoever. It's really stupid. It makes us look bad. It makes you guys and others like hesitant to come on shows like ours. It's very dumb. I freaking hate it. If I hear people do it at a tournament I'm at, I'll say something, but it's really stupid. So.
I just said that yesterday. We were walking off the 9th tee, and a guy was yelling at Tony that he picked him in fantasy this week, and I was like, "Well, Tony, you've got to start trying now. I mean, I know you haven't really cared at all this week, but now he's got you on fantasy. I mean,
forget your 11 kids on the playground over here. Let's do it for this fat schmuck who puts you in a $10 lineup.
It's funny you say that because we at Mayakoba every year. The last few years we've stayed at Banyan Tree. They've got a great Thai restaurant. It's pretty expensive in there, and every night that my wife and I have been eating, Tony's been in there with his 6 or 7 kids, wherever he's got. And I'm like, man, I feel bad because you got to finish like 3rd here in order to break even this week. So I guess it's a good thing he came through yesterday.
That's funny. Good for him. Hopefully he's hanging in there. Hopefully, Well, yeah. I'm sure he's sitting there counting on that wire on Wednesday to hit so he can feed the. And I think they eat good too. I've been to a Tony Finau Foundation event. Like those people, they make some good food. They eat.
Yeah.
His family makes.
And they're all big. I mean, they're all big people. They can eat a lot.
Tall and massive. They all look like bouncers. All his cousins and brothers look like bouncers, and they're a good time though. All right, man. Thanks for being on the Tour Junkies podcast. We will see you out on the road, and awesome. Have you on again one of these days.
Perfect. Thank you. It's fun.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. Your brother. I don't know. We'll try to keep him straight too.